Next problem, same deal. We want to find the Fourier series, but here we want to find a sub 0. Well, we know a sub 0 is the integral from negative 3 to positive 3 of 1 over, again, half of that always. There it is. Of what? F of t dt. That's going to be 1 over 3, the integral from negative 3 to 0. What's f of t? Negative 2 dt. Plus, you could write that out again if you just want to use two separate integrals from 0 to 3 of 2 dt. That's going to be 1/3 times negative 2t evaluated from negative 3 to 0 plus 1/3 times 2t evaluated from 0 to 3. So this works out to be, again, I'm going to take the 1/3 out of it. I think that's easier that way. That's a 0. Negative 2 minus negative 2 times negative 3. Plus, yeah, it's simpler just to take the 1/3 out of both. 6 minus 0. So I am getting a 1/3, 3 negatives. Wouldn't that make that a negative 6? Plus 1/3 times 6, that's a 0. So I got a sub 0 to be 0. That's very good. I got it. And 0 or not, I would have been done right there. How about a sub 1? A sub 1 is 1 over 3, the integral from negative 3 to 3 of f of t times the cosine of 1 t over pi dt. And again, it's right there. That's provided. A sub 1. Put a 1 right there. A pi over p. Let me see, what did I write p? Did I write p as a 3? Oh, I'm so stuck on p. P is right there. There you go. So what would that be? That would be 1/3 times the integral from negative 3 to 0. Well, f of t varies. Negative 2 the cosine of t over 3 dt plus the integral from 0 to 3 of positive 2 the cosine of t over 3 dt. So what would that be? That would be 1/3 times negative 2 the sine of t over 3. And if you divide by 1/3, that's multiplying by 3. Evaluated from negative 3 to 0 plus 2 times 3 the sine of t over 3 evaluated from 0 to 3. So that is 1/3 times, actually I could see the 3 cancels those 3's. If you see that, then you save yourself a fraction. That is negative 2 times, put the 0 in, that's a 0. Put that in, that would be the minus the sine of negative 1. Plus twice, put the 3 in, you get the sine of 1, minus, put 0 in, you get the sine of 0, which is 0. So this is negative 2 times, remember, that is, remember sine is odd, so these negatives come out and you're looking at negative 2 times the sine of 1 plus twice the sine of 1. I'm getting that to be 0. If I find a sub 2, so remember, the cosine of negative x is the cosine of x, but the sine of negative x is negative the sine of x. Sine is an odd function. How about if I wanted to find a sub 2? A sub 2 is 1 over 3 the integral from negative 3 to 3 f of t, the cosine of, if this is 2t over 3 dt. That's going to be 1/3 times the integral from negative 3 to 0. F of t is negative 2. The cosine of 2t divided by 3 dt plus the integral from 0 to 3 of twice the cosine of 2t over 3 dt. And again, f is right there. And that turns out to be 1/3 times, this would be negative twice the sine of 2t divided by 3. When you divide by 2/3, that's multiplying by 3/2, evaluated from negative 3 to 0, plus twice the cosine of 2t over 3. When you divide by 2/3, that's multiplying by 3/2, evaluated from 0 to 3. And again, if you see that the 3's cancel out and the 2's cancel out, you make your life a lot easier. That's simply saying negative the sine of 2t divided by 3. Put the 0 in. That is negative 0 minus a negative. Put the negative 3 in. That would be the sine of negative 2. That's it. Here, I'll get the cosine. If you put the 3 in, the 3's cancel out, of 2 minus the cosine of 0. That would be the sine of negative 2 plus, okay, I used cosine instead of sine. You guys forgive me, right? That was the sine. The sine of 2, but we know this is an odd function, negative the sine of 2 plus the sine of 2. We're getting this to be 0. So we got a sub 0, a sub 1, a sub 2, all to be 0. What does that mean? That means all the terms with the cosine are going to disappear. All of these. There's none of those. Let's go for the sines. b1, b2, b3. So if I go for b1, b2, b3, b sub 1 is what? Well, the formula is right there. 1 over p, which is 3, sine. B sub n takes a sine instead of a cosine. Same thing. It's going to be the integral from negative 3 to 3, right there. It's going to be the integral from negative 3 to 3. That means that's 1 over 3. F of t. The sine, and that's over 3 automatically, because whatever this is, this is. Now, there's a t there, and this is the place where this comes in, dt. Alright, what is that? That is 1/3 times the integral from negative 3 to 0. We have, I believe, a negative 2. The sine of t over 3 dt plus the integral from 0 to 3 of 2 times the sine of t over 3 dt. It was negative 2 and 2, right? There, those don't have to match, but here they do match. Alright, I just need to integrate that and figure out what that is. That is 1/3 times the negative 2 I ignore. What do you take a derivative of to get sine negative the cosine? That becomes a positive. The cosine of t over 3. And what do you do with that? You divide by 1/3, that's multiplied by 3 over 1. Evaluated from negative 3 to 0, plus here, the 2 you ignore. What do you take a derivative of to get sine negative the cosine of t over 3, and you multiply by 3 over 1, evaluated from 0 to 3. So again, if you notice that this 1/3 cancel those 3's, you could save yourself a bit of work. What that would be 2 times the cosine of 0 is 1 minus the cosine of negative 1. plus, actually minus, right? Negative times the negative 2 times, throw the 3 in, the cosine of 1 minus the cosine of 0 is a 1. And what would that be? B sub 1 would be 2 minus, remember, cosine of negative 1 is the cosine of 1. So I'm getting a 4 minus 4 the cosine of 1. That's B sub 1. Very good. How about B sub 2? B sub 2 is the integral from negative 3 to 3, 1 over 3, f of t, the sine of 2t divided by 3 dt. That is 1/3 times the integral from negative 3 to 0. F of t is negative 2 from negative 3 to 0 of the sine of 2t over 3 dt plus the integral, if I go from 0 to 3, that's going to be 2 times the sine of t2 divided by 3 dt. And that's going to be 1/3 times, what do you take the root of to get sine negative cosine? So that's positive twice the cosine of 2d divided by 3. And you divide by 2/3, that's 3/2. Evaluated from negative 3 to 0, minus, because I know this is going to be a negative, twice the cosine of 2t divided by 3 times 3 over 2, evaluated from 0 to 3. Again, it would be wise for you to recognize that, wait a minute, if I distribute the 1/3 and I could cancel those 3's. That's good. That is, oh, and those 2's cancel out. That is the cosine of 0 minus the cosine, and if you put the negative 3 in there, isn't that 2? Negative 2? More space. Minus, the 2's cancel out, the cosine of 2 minus the cosine of 0. So B sub 2 would be, the cosine of 0 is 1. That is an even function, it absorbs the negative, minus the cosine of 2 minus plus 1. So I'm getting 2 minus 2 the cosine of 2. Normally you would find B sub 3, but for now let's stick with those 2. If I want to find the series f of t, according to Fourier, that's a sub 0 over 2 plus a sub 1, the cosine of 1 pi divided by 3t, plus a sub 2, the cosine of 2 pi over 3t, plus a sub 3, the cosine of 3 pi over 3t, the list goes on, plus b sub 1, the sine of 1 pi over 3t, plus b sub 2, the sine of 2 pi over 3t, plus b sub 3, the sine of 3 pi over 3t, and the list goes on. But we got this to be 0, this to be 0, this to be 0, and this to be 0, and they were right there. Did you notice we got this to be 0, this to be 0, that to equal 0? What's b sub 1? 4 minus 4 the cosine of 1. So this is going to equal, those are all zeros. Here, we're going to get 4 minus 4 times the cosine of 1 times the sine of 1 pi over 3t. Now, I wouldn't simplify if I was you. b sub 2 is 2 minus 2 the cosine of 2 times the sine of 2 pi over 3t plus, if we find one more we could list it and that would work out really well. Now, to see the pattern you really need to take a bit more. Now, luckily for us in this class, we don't have to find a summation formula. When you go to the upper division math, when this is the needed, you're going to write a series, but we don't have to do that in this class. Pretty much, this is all they want. Now, the deal here is to figure out that, look, those are the same, those are the same. Unless I made a mistake, that's pretty much what it is. So these problems are lengthy, as you see. I have one more. I'm going to do that in the third video. And this one, we're going to find the general. We're not going to find a sub 1, a sub 2. We're going to find a sub n and b sub n. But you'll notice that's a bit more work. That's something you have to figure out, but as far as work, it's less work. So we'll do that problem in the next video.